Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Just a quick note before we begin. Nothing shared here should be taken as financial advice. This content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only, and I truly appreciate you being here with me today. Take a moment and steady yourself, because something extraordinary has unfolded across the global financial landscape. Developments surrounding the Iraqi dinar have reached a turning point unlike anything we have seen before. For years, conversations, theories, and predictions have circulated across forums, news circles, and investor communities. Observers have monitored every signal coming out of Baghdad and analyzed each policy shift from Iraq's monetary authorities. But the events now emerging from both Washington and Baghdad represent a decisive shift that many believed might never arrive. A public position attributed to President Donald Trump regarding the future valuation of Iraq's currency has ignited intense reactions across international markets. From major financial centers in North America to trading hubs across Asia, attention has rapidly converged on this story. Whether you currently hold Iraqi dinar or are simply interested in the direction of global currencies, the developments unfolding today demand careful attention. In this report, we will examine the specific timelines that have been discussed, the exchange values that are being debated, and the high-level engagement said to have preceded this pivotal moment on March 1, 2026. Stay with us throughout this discussion, because the concepts surrounding a one-to-one valuation relationship and the long-discussed removal of three zeros are now being framed as practical realities that could reshape financial expectations for millions of people worldwide. Across financial circles, the atmosphere today is charged with anticipation. Analysts are processing the implications of renewed focus on Iraq's currency and the political momentum surrounding its transformation. For many years, the dinar has been viewed as a dormant asset. It was constrained by prolonged instability and complex monetary controls that suppressed its international standing. Now, signals from senior officials suggest a transition away from speculation and toward execution. What is being described is not merely an adjustment of figures on an exchange board. The broader narrative points toward Iraq's reintegration into global financial systems after decades of limited participation. Recent public commentary has outlined a vision of Iraq evolving into a major economic force within the Middle East, supported by vast natural resources and strengthened fiscal governance. The long-discussed Delete the Zeros initiative is being framed as a bridge between domestic monetary reform and full participation in international markets. For observers and stakeholders alike, the implications are profound. Looking at the 2026 fiscal framework and the previously highlighted date of February 3rd, analysts have noted what appears to be deliberate coordination. Moving from a program-based exchange structure to a market-driven valuation requires extensive collaboration with international financial institutions, including the International Monetary Fund and the United States Treasury. Activity involving these institutions in Baghdad has increased noticeably in recent months. The strengthening of Iraq's currency has been described by supporters as a stabilizing force for the broader region. By restructuring the currency through redenomination, the monetary system becomes more practical for everyday use while also improving clarity for international investors. Eliminating three zeros simplifies accounting practices and reduces the logistical burden of large numerical denominations. Historically, redenomination often precedes adjustments in valuation, and observers who have followed Iraq's monetary journey for decades recognize the significance of such structural reform. One of the most widely discussed elements of the current narrative is the proposed exchange relationship between the Iraqi dinar and the United States dollar. For years, many have speculated about the possibility of parity. The concept suggests that a note once associated with limited global purchasing power could, under a restructured system, represent a dramatically different value. Supporters view this scenario as a historic shift in financial positioning, potentially elevating Iraq's currency within regional markets. Advocates of this outlook point to Iraq's foreign currency reserves, which are frequently cited as exceeding the value of circulating money supply, as a structural basis for currency strength. While debate continues among economists, proponents argue that the underlying financial data aligns with long-term reform objectives. The conversation has therefore shifted from hypothetical projections toward discussions centered on implementation. The timing of the current announcement carries additional weight because it follows a period of significant economic development within Iraq. Over the past year, policy initiatives have emphasized diversification beyond oil dependence. Investments in agriculture, infrastructure, technology, and regional trade logistics have been presented as foundational steps toward economic resilience. Many analysts consider this diversification a prerequisite for sustaining any major currency adjustment. In this context, policy signals are being interpreted as an invitation for expanded private sector engagement. Reports indicate that international firms have expressed interest in major commercial agreements within Iraq, contingent upon currency stability and financial transparency. If realized, such engagement would represent a structural reset in how global capital interacts with the Iraqi economy. For everyday citizens within Iraq, monetary reform carries implications that extend beyond financial markets. Currency simplification could restore practical purchasing power and reduce the burden of high-denomination cash transactions. Supporters emphasize that stronger currency value typically reduces the cost of imported goods, potentially improving access to technology, transportation, and healthcare. These changes, if sustained, could contribute to broader social stability and economic confidence among the population. Beyond national borders, a restructured Iraqi currency would influence global financial relationships. Closer alignment with established reserve currencies could facilitate new trade pathways and reduce barriers that historically limited emerging markets. Some analysts frame this strategy as a form of economic diplomacy, strengthening partnerships through financial integration rather than purely political alignment. Attention has also turned to the operational aspects of currency transition for holders outside Iraq. Reports suggest that financial institutions have received preliminary guidance regarding exchange procedures for legacy notes. Proposed frameworks emphasize transparency, fraud prevention, and structured conversion periods. For individuals who have retained physical currency for years, clarity regarding logistics remains a central concern. Behind these developments, Iraq's central banking authorities have undertaken extensive preparatory measures. Efforts to reduce unofficial currency markets, adjust liquidity conditions, and expand reserve assets have been widely discussed. Coordination with international financial bodies has been described as essential to ensuring that domestic reforms align with global standards. Criticism of potential currency revaluation historically focused on governance challenges and internal political divisions. However, recent reforms aimed at improving financial oversight and combating corruption are frequently cited by supporters as evidence of institutional progress. International acceptance of Iraq's financial reforms has been portrayed as contingent upon such measures. Energy resources remain a cornerstone of Iraq's economic foundation. Continued oil production, combined with exploration of additional reserves, has contributed to rising national revenues. At the same time, policy initiatives have emphasized reinvestment into infrastructure and emerging energy technologies. This combination of resource wealth and modernization strategy is often presented as supportive of long-term currency strength. Some observers interpret the dinar's transformation as part of a broader shift in global economic dynamics. The strengthening of partner economies, they argue, reduces dependence on external assistance while expanding markets for international trade. In this framework, Iraq's recovery is viewed as a test case for rebuilding national economies through financial reform. Media narratives surrounding Iraq have also evolved. Coverage increasingly highlights economic reconstruction alongside political developments. Shifts in public perception often precede broader market acceptance, and many analysts view this change in narrative as a meaningful indicator of momentum. Psychologically, significant currency reform can influence expectations beyond the nation directly involved. The perception that structural reform is achievable may inspire similar efforts in other developing economies. Leadership visibility surrounding Iraq's recovery has amplified global awareness and intensified international engagement. As discussions move closer to implementation scenarios, analysts anticipate transitional volatility as markets adjust to new valuation frameworks. Managed currency float mechanisms are frequently mentioned as tools to ensure stability during this adjustment period. Oversight from domestic and international institutions is presented as essential to maintaining long-term confidence. For observers and participants alike, the prevailing guidance emphasizes patience and preparation. Financial transitions of this magnitude require structured procedures and careful planning. Consultation with professional advisors is widely recommended for those directly impacted by currency exchange events. Broader financial markets may also respond to changes in liquidity and asset distribution. Increased diversification into commodities such as gold and silver are often discussed in periods of monetary transformation.